Sorry, Mom. Hi everyone, welcome back. I've got all the rest of the parts that I need for my dad's truck project sitting here in this trailer and in my truck, because now we have to start the final push to finish this project. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Those of you who've been with me on all these projects for a long period of time, thank you guys so very much. It means so much to me for their support and all the people who've been kind of invested in this emotionally. To those of you who are new, welcome. I appreciate you just as much. If you haven't, again, please consider subscribing, just because it helps me on the algorithm. It helps me with Google's ad revenue. It helps me with everything. So like I said, we are starting the final push. Now, I don't know how long that final push is going to take, but I'm here gathering parts, and I'm actually in a very weird spot to do that. Now, my parents' property out here in Connecticut is an old one. It used to be an old farm. And right here in their backyard is an old bottle dump. You can actually see all the old bottles and cans and ancient stuff. There's a car roof. There's all sorts of stuff back here. I used to come back here as a kid and smash them until I realized that they were actually worth something. Then I started collecting them. But like I said, you can find all sorts of stuff back here. And this is not my parents. They didn't do this. They didn't dump all this trash back here. This is just kind of a New England thing, you know. We got an old property. People used to just throw their garbage outside or into a dump, which they created themselves. Hence this. Now, why am I back here in this garbage? Oh, well, see these fenders and these car parts just kind of strewn all over the place? Well, these are the remains of, I believe, and I might put a picture up here if you want to know, I think it's a 1935 DeSoto. I could be wrong. But check this thing out. Look at this. Look at these swept fenders. Aren't these cool? I mean, it would be a lot cooler if it was still a car, but somebody took a gas axe to it about, I don't know, in the 50s or 60s, maybe even earlier than that, and there's just pieces of it now. There hasn't been anything left of it in a long time, so. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here for fenders. I'm not here for doors and quarters, parts, whatever. I'm here for something else. Now, with this project, what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to incorporate pieces of not only my father's vision, like I'm using the seats out of one of his old trucks because he bought it and he liked that truck, and it has since kind of gone to pot and headed for the junk heap. So I said, you know what? I'm going to use parts off of it. I'm going to use the wheels. I'm going to use the seat. I'm going to use what I can to try to get his old truck going. And I'm also going to use some creative liberties along the way. But I'm also going to incorporate parts of his life he may not have even known about. Because out here in the bottle dump, I found the bumper, at least one of them, to that old DeSoto or whatever that was. And I found some stainless steel trim. Now, the rear bumper on his truck is hideous. It is just a piece of pig iron just welded to the back. And I figure, why don't we take this old piece of metal that's been sitting here for God knows how long. I don't know, maybe we'll spit shine it a little bit just to make her a little bit more decent looking. It's already pretty pitted and gross, but you know what? Why not give it new life being a part of a hot rod? What do you think, guys? Also, I found this like stainless steel trim just kind of embedded in the ground. This has probably been here for the better part of 80 years. I'm not kidding. Or maybe even 60, 70. I don't know how many. It's been out here a long time, but look at how good this is. Look at what stainless steel used to be. This has been outside. Look, that's the most rust I found. That's it. Isn't that tremendous? I would love to incorporate this somewhere. Like maybe I'll put it on like the hood, or maybe I'll put some on the tailgate or something. I don't know, but we're going to use this. And I'm going to take this rear bumper and somehow figure out how to make it work. Even if it's just a piece of, I don't know, decoration. All the remaining parts for my build are coming in Hopefully we don't have any more issues with stupid bearings and other things failing. But I'd really love to make that final push. And in order to do that, in order to get the wiring done, in order to get all the other plumbing finished, I have to have the front clip of the truck, which I have in the trailer. I have to have the seats. I have to have everything. Therefore, while I'm here, I'm going to grab everything I want. So I'm going to head back to the shop, and I'll see you there. All right, we're back in the shop, and we're going to finish what we've been trying to finish for weeks. We have to get that rear axle bearing put back on and get that damn axle finished so that we can get the rear end finished. We need the axles in so that we can have the rear backing plates put on and we can start plumbing the brakes. That has been the longest affair for this whole damn build, has been the damn axles and getting that nightmare sorted out. So now I finally have all the parts and tools to do so. So now I'm looking for them and I might have lost them. Oh no, I didn't. They're in the truck. Well, now that I can actually walk behind here because I cleaned the shop up to the point where I can close the tailgate, I lose things behind it. So I got the bearings. Luckily, they're really easy to figure out what they are now. This is a Timken bearing, clearly. It's made in America. They're awesome bearings. I usually don't use anything other than those. But if you're looking for a standard bearing race size Ford 9-inch axle bearing with the seal and everything, this is a set 20 Timken bearing. The only reason I had to get special bearings for the other axles was because these are like an aftermarket, like racing axle, like for drag racing or something like that. So they take a 1.771 inner bearing, but these are like 1.562. I don't remember. But Timken bearings are going to be a lot better than the other pile of crap that I bought the last time. So I also have to go through this bearing race right here and fix what that cheap, crappy Speedway Motors bearing did to it because it marred the edge where the bearing slides on. Now you see I took a small flap disc to try to take a little bit of that shoulder down. It's going to ride on here, but I just wanted to see if I could get it past here. This affects absolutely nothing, by the way, because this entire race and this where the seal goes is completely untouched. I did try my hardest, did not work. So I guess that's another $40 never buy again product. But you know what? That Timken bearing, I'll measure it, I'll make sure it fits, we're going to press it in and get this damn rear end finished once and for all. You know, I'm really sick of this thing kicking me in the ass, just constantly. And it's always for stupid crap that I don't know about ahead of time. Now, I also don't feel bad about buying that new axle on the other side. Would you like to see why? It's because everything fits. And when you hang the drum on it, which I might be able to do one-handed, yes, I can. Look, it fits perfectly. However, sure, this one sits on here perfectly flush. However, it doesn't fit. The bearing's bottomed out. You want to know what the problem is? The problem is the throat from the edge of the bearing to the end of the axle flange is longer on these axles. Did I know that? Nope. So guess who has to now not only buy new axle studs because I welded these in, but I also need to buy yet another axle. I can't help but laugh. Because if I don't, then it's going to be worse. Well, I guess I'll just get on the horn and just wait another week for... You know what? I'm going to buy an axle with a bearing on it. Because I can buy them from Speedway. And I'll just measure from that bearing edge, where the bearing presses up to the end of the axle, in order to get the actual length for the axle to cut it. Because they sell a bunch of, like, cut-to-fit axles. They're fine. I've used them on my race car plenty of times. I've got the other one on this side. I'll just buy another one. Frick it. I mean, what a pain in my ass. Okay, there goes about another $250 between all the parts I ordered. But I got more stuff on the way, so we should at least be able to finish that now. Fingers crossed, as usual. So... not like I don't have anything to do. There's plenty to do. I could do exhaust, I could do wiring, I do interior, I could do everything. I got the front clip here, we can do that. I also figured out that the rear will not fit a tire on it unless it has a little bit more back spacing, or I run wheel spacers. Now, it's got to be about an inch or an inch and a half. Those are easy to get. I could just do that to be cheap at this point. And if I want to, I could get one of those like tire backspacing gauge things, and I could just buy different wheels for it, but that's a future problem. I did get those little like flex hoses I got for the rear. Like I got a long one so we can actually plumb the rear to the rear axle and have a lot of droop and stuff so it doesn't catch. Also, I got clips so that when you put the flex hoses from the hard line to the chassis with one of these like brackets here, you can run it and use the little clip to hold the flex hose into the bracket. And I got a bunch of those on the way too. So that'll help with at least fabrication as well. So right now we just got to get to the point where we just kind of choose something and move in that direction. And I think we're going to do some tedious stuff because that's the stuff that's really boring, but it needs to be done. And the first things first is we might go for wiring. Now I have zero clue as to what's in this truck for wiring besides what I can see right in front of my face. I don't know what this box is, and I don't know what these fasteners are, but I bet you a flat-bladed screwdriver would take care of it. I got this, look at this like tube-type wiring and like fuses. I don't know what the hell that stuff is, but these are 6-volt trucks because that's what everything was back in the day. But clearly we're going to be going to 12-volt. Now, I'm really hoping that the headlights are capable of holding 12 volts. If not, then I'm going to have to figure it out. But I think somebody, whoever owned this truck, was running it around on 12 volts because the battery's not where it used to be in the truck. And somebody had pre-made their own battery box under the hood because the battery used to be under the floor in these trucks. And 12 volts is much easier to get. Plus, they were running it with like lead substitute in the gas, so they were running the same engine, but I don't have a clue. So I'm basically just going to go and just make everything 12 volt and hope for the best. Now, since I don't have anything for lights, especially out back, that I can really trust, I was thinking about just getting some old LED trailer lights. I'm just going to leave them for now. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. But back here, we've got these lights. I don't know if they're 12 volt. They look newer than the truck. They're definitely not what this truck would come with factory. They look like trailer lights from probably the 80s, I want to say. And there's 2 sets on each side, so there's like 2 lights here and there's like 2 lights there. I'd love to get underneath here and just strip it. Just strip it and start over. There's not a lot of wiring to these things, so you might as well just start over. It's like a race car, except with lights. That's about it. some progress. You can tell that this thing doesn't have the factory wiring in it. It's very simple for two obvious reasons. Number one, it's way, way too new looking. And this is definitely not factory. I mean, this is stuff that is clearly aftermarket. The factory would have had like cloth sheath wiring, and it wouldn't have been anywhere near this thick either. This is like 8 gauge, 10 gauge wire. That is heavy, heavy stuff. But it's also labeled. There's numbers that are on here. So it's definitely some kind of an aftermarket harness that was made for this specific vehicle. Now, I was kind of going through with my test light. Actually, no, it's a probe. You know, you can power probe it. And I had my winch battery hooked up to it, and I was using this like ground to try to get some semblance of idea of where things go. And I figured out that this was the old brake light switch, even though it doesn't have a spring on it to whatever. But it was the old brake light switch, and I pulled these wires off of it. And the pink one, I stuck the power probe on, and it lit up the brake lights in the back. Now, clearly, you know, if they work, I might just say to hell with it and leave them for now and not do anything fancy, because I just need to know if this one works or not. I could tell this one lit up because I saw the whole wall shine red here. And you'll also notice that I took the middle ones out. Well, apparently they weren't even hooked up to anything, so I just deleted on those. We'll obviously tuck this wire back because somebody just kind of stuck wiring in and zip tied it in. When there's like a nice panel back here, we could hide it behind. But we can do that in the future. It's not a huge deal. But I also need to kind of go and do a little bit more research. Like, I need to go on the internet and find just basic wiring diagrams for lights, because it's not as simple as just wiring up a power and a ground. It's going to be a real pain in my ass to do it, especially from scratch. Which, again, if you've watched any sort of automotive stuff on YouTube, they're like, oh, you know, I bought this car for $1,500. It's sat for 30 years. I'm going to go and just see if it can run again. And, you know, if the turn signals don't work, they don't care. I have to care because I'm registering this vehicle and it has to actually work. So that's why this damn thing takes so goddamn long, is because that. So I got to figure out what wiring I can keep out of this harness because it's too new. I might as well just use some of it. And if I can tie it into the harness that I have to make things a little bit more simple, that would be great. But I got to figure out circuitry first because I don't want anything to catch on fire or not work, because I'd hate to have to sit here and figure out how to diagnose things. So I'm going to go inside, print out some things, and just learn a little bit of basic circuitry, because I'm not bad at wiring. I just don't want to screw it up. That's all. So if we can get this thing at least majority wired up, boy, that would really help. Because then all the rest of the stuff is actually kind of easy. Like running brake lines, not hard. Done that tons of times. Putting in exhaust, really not hard, because it doesn't have to look good. No one's going to care as long as it sounds cool. But the wiring is the worst damn part of this whole thing. So I'm going to do that. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Okay, guys, it's the next day. And actually, you know, last night when I signed off from filming, I actually stayed out here a little bit longer to try to figure out a few things, maybe learn some stuff, maybe figure out what is sitting in this truck right now and what I can do with it moving forward. So what I did last night was I gained a good understanding of what is actually in this truck. Now, again, I know that this thing got rewired at some point. And most of it's on the floor there because there is none of it left in the truck. I took every scrap of it out. And I also took a razor blade, or in this case, a box cutter, and I cut a bunch of this, I think it was electrical tape instead of actual wire casing, off. And I was able to isolate the rear circuit because I feel like I'm going to reuse a lot of this. So I got to look at it, and I did figure out that the fuses that were in this thing, even though they were kind of glass tube fuses, went to the stoplights and the taillights. So I said, okay, well, there's something I figured out. Figured out this black wire was the running lights, and they're tied into both sides. That's fine. But the problem is this wire here, the pink one, was actually tied into both rear taillights, and that is your stop lamp. So I figured out running lights and stop lights. However, if you're going to have turn signals, which I'm putting in this truck, you can't have them both on one circuit. So, luckily, this harness that somebody ran all the way to the back, it looks like it's got a few extra wires in there, but it's got enough wiring sent all the way to the back and all the way already in the frame rails and everything that I can take and rewire the signal and stop lamps to be on individual circuits. Because in order for me to put turn signals in this truck, I have to have everything run through the turn signal switch, including the brake lights. So my job today is to try to get the signals and everything at least figured out, right? And wired up. And I have another harness over there that's got fuses in it. And I might even grab the radiator support outside and bring that in and maybe try to hook it up. Not the fenders or anything, but just the radiator support so I can map out battery wires, relays, not relays, solenoid, and try to get just, I got to figure out that stuff. But I figured out a lot of the circuitry last night with individual wires and where they have to go. And that was hanging me up quite a bit, trying to figure out how to get the lights individually placed so that the circuit would work. And when I figured out that they had to go through the turn signal, then it was kind of a revelation. I'm like, oh, okay, now it's starting to make sense. The only thing that I really have to do now is just figure out how to incorporate not only the turn signal switch into the wiring, but also how to do it into a fuse block and this wiring harness that I bought that doesn't go with it. Well, if I told you how long it took me just to get this stuff apart, you'd probably sympathize with me. I know you'd believe me, but I'm sure you guys would absolutely sympathize with me at this point. This is by far the most tedious project I've run into on this truck. Not the rear axle issues, not anything else. It's figuring out the wiring because, like I said before, it's got to be right. But at the same time, I'm at a place where I don't know what half of this stuff is. And if I try to go by really shoddy directions where they can't spell things properly, and I'm not really that big into wiring and I don't know what I'm doing as much as like the next guy when it comes to this sort of stuff, I can wire a race car, no problem. Start talking about like lights, turn signals, wipers, etc., brake lights, stuff like that. I've never done that stuff before. I usually just get in the car, turn the key, and drive. But this sucks. Now, this front radiator support section that I had to take off, that took me about 2 hours to get free from the front fenders and inner fenders. By the way, the front fenders and inner fenders that were kind of on this truck when we bought it, the original ones, I should say, they're junk. Complete junk. I mean, absolutely unusable junk. They're paper-thin, rotted junk. I have other fenders, but the inner fender wells are crap. The grill's junk. I mean, everything is junk, except for this. All this stuff is actually pretty good. Radiator support's fine. It's old, but it's fine. The upper plate where the hood mount is, right here, it's a little boogered, but it's fine. We had another one, but I guess it's not for a truck. It might be for a car. I don't even know at this point, but I'm still working on wiring, and it's just, God almighty, this sucks. But I'm getting to the point where we're starting to figure out where everything is and where everything goes and how everything goes together. Like I had to go pull one of the headlights out, and there's all sorts of dead animals, probably from the last 50 years in there, or however long it's been since someone put this headlight in. But I pulled that out, and I had to figure out, because somebody had used like a bus bar and just kind of connected all the headlight wires on the bus bar, and here's the harness that goes to it. You know what I mean? They would double up and put these in on the bus bar, and it would, go all the way to the other side and trade on the other side. And there's a running light, run into it, but there was no turn signals. And it's like, man, it is just unbelievably tedious right now. I got the rear wires, like all the rear lights and stuff, kind of parsed out. I wrapped them up in some cloth wire, stuffed them in there. We should be able to do that. I tested the headlight, the high beam switch, and I also tested the headlight switch, and I think I'm going to replace both of them because I'm just not too sure about those. Now, I don't know the age of them clearly, but at the same time, when I tested both of them, I would go and I would pull out like once, and it would read 12 volts on the park circuit, right? Then I'd pull it out all the way, and it would read 12 volts on the headlight circuit, but the park circuit would drop to 3 volts. I don't know if that's normal or not. I'm going to have to Google that. Same thing happened when I did the headlight switch, but kind of in reverse, because while it would switch the headlight circuits, one would be 12 volts, but the other one would be like 6. So I don't know what's going on there, or if there's just a bad connection somewhere. So I'm just going to delete both of them instead of putting a bad part in and then having to fix it, because I do not want this to be a problem. But this sort of tedious stuff is exactly what I go through every single time I try to build something, make something, create something, fix something, whatever it is. It's all part of the planning phase, really. It's me trying to figure out what to do next. And I think after tonight and after last night, we've got pretty much every circuit figured out. Now the problem is going to be, okay, now we have to actually execute it. We have to put all the circuits in place. Tomorrow I'm going to come back in and we're going to start running wires. Once we get to starting to run wires, it's really kind of game on. And it's also going to be kind of tedious at the same time. So I'll see you then. Okay, it is the next day, and I got another good idea, at least for what we're going to do, and I got more parts. Ignore the 7-Eleven bag because O'Reilly's couldn't give me one, but I bought an exhaust connector because all the exhaust that I have, we're probably going to have to piecemeal it together, which no one's going to see. It doesn't matter what it looks like, it just matters what it sounds like. I bought another key because I don't know the age of the one in the truck, and I figure, you know what, let's just eliminate that problem right off the head. An HEI pigtail because, well, that would just make my life easier, plus I can add a tack, which I think we have an old one at the other shop that we're not using for anything. I might want to hose clamp it to the dash or the steering column anyway. Got another, let's see, push-pull light switch. This does not have the intermediate one, so you can just turn the running lights on. If you want the lights on, turn the damn lights on. Done. That makes wiring easy. And this looks like a spare for the race car. So there we go. That's in there. And it actually fits this truck in case we break one, so that's good too. I figured out a few things last night. I made myself a list. And I even got started. Said, mount the solenoid to the firewall. You can see I taped something over there and put the solenoid on it. I'm like, look, you know, the inner fender wells on this thing are shot. And I came to another conclusion of I'm probably going to have to buy new ones because they're so shot I can't even add anything to it. Like, I can't put the front grille on. I can't put the front fenders up. Like, everything is shot. Like, there's one fender that needs a trim piece like this big of repair work. That's it. So if I just get the new inner fender wells and spend the $225 at Jegs, which is another damn dent in the in the budget. All right, so then I came up with a few ideas. I'm like, okay, dash circuit, jumper wire on the starter. Don't worry about the excess circuits. We can eliminate them. Also, don't worry about how long they are. We'll finish them when we finish them. So I think I'll hop on Jegs, get me some new inner fender wells so that we can start finishing this thing. Why do I bring up inner fender wells? Well, a lot of this stuff is going to get mounted to them, especially the front headlight stuff. Like, I have to have a place where the wires will mount to, and I also need to have a place where some of the bus bars go, and just at least have something of any sort of structure to get the front fenders to fit. So that's all I need that for. I was going to run no inner fender wells and just kind of build braces, but then I thought, I'm like, if I get caught in the rain, everything here is getting wet because of the front tire spray. It's just going to go in the air cleaner. It's going to kill the distributor. It's just going to be awful because if you're driving a classic car, you're going to get caught in the rain at least once. So you got to be prepared, especially if you take it out on even what looks like a good day. So we're going to prepare for that. But god dang, I've said it before. If I just built another race car, it would probably have cost this much. I've hit a very crucial executive decision at this point. There was two ways that we could have gone about doing this. The first way is this unnamed cheap Chinese Temu wiring harness that looked really promising until you started reading the directions and then trying to just chase circuits and stuff. And then you figure out, holy crap, this thing's impossible because of more like two very important factors. One, I can't figure out how to put power to that. Because it says in the instructions where to put power in from, and then I look on the backside to trace that circuit, and it's not exactly there, and all the wire colors are different. And the fuse that I look at in there is a 20 amp fuse when there's 30 amp circuits. So I'm like, okay, so that makes zero sense whatsoever. So that's not going to work because I don't know. I'll be here all freaking week trying to figure this out. Or I could do it my way, which I could be done like tonight. That entails using these, which are essentially, I think I showed you these, but they are bus bars. Okay? We mount the bus bars underneath the dashboard. We use the wiring set that we already have, which we hook this flasher into the turn signal stalk. We move all the wires into that. We wire up everything to go in through that, tuck it up under the dashboard. You need power? There you go. You need a ground? There it is. And basically, just loom everything to the bus bar, have main power come in from that, key switch on, done. Is there going to be fuses in it? I wouldn't ask that right now. And I really wanted this thing to have fuses in it and everything be, properly done. But at the same time, I don't have the whole rest of my life to figure this damn thing out. I have to do this, get it done, get it working, make it like even friendly for you guys to watch. This is boring. So I'm just going to get it done. I'm tired of it. I am sick of just having to deal with this crap, and I'm moving on. Progress report. It's amazing what you can get done when you just start doing things yourself and just figuring it out from there. I got a few more wires to put in, but basically Most of it's in. I also bit the bullet and bought new inner fender wells because I wasn't gonna, but like I said, you have to have them in order to get the sides of the fenders and the side of the grill, because they sandwich, bolted together, and that sucks. So I didn't want to leave that off all floppy or depend on this thing or whatever, and I honestly couldn't leave it open because I didn't want to soak the carburetor or that. Or speaking of all this, look at wire. I found a thick old amp wire. I figured that would run my what do you call that, junction block there, and hopefully that'll be heavy gauge enough. I figure it would be. I mean, we're only running like an HEI ignition and some lights, so that should do just fine. I am having a couple minor issues in here, though. We got the new switch installed. That works. This is the headlight switch. I did pull it, and I did see running lights on the two rear brake lights. I also have an issue. And when I turn power on, this thing will blink just constantly. Like the relay will go off constantly. When I jumper the brake wire to that brake pressure switch, it actually does light up both brake lights, so that's good. However, when I turn the left blinker on, that blinker works. When I turn the right blinker on, it just flashes the running lights. So I got some weird thing going on in here. I don't know what it is. I went exactly off of their wiring diagram, and I even used my test lead, my power probe, to figure out what wire went where, so I know I have each side labeled correctly and put in properly. I'm just going to have to figure. Maybe it's just because the front's not hooked up and it's not completing a circuit. I don't really know at this point. So at this moment, I think we're just going to move on because I've been really kind of annoyed enough by wiring. And this stupid video is going to be like an hour of me standing there doing wiring, and that sucks. So I said, okay, let's leave wiring until we're actually ready for this thing to be, I don't know, started, because I did actually get the key in as well, and I put a wire to the solenoid from the starter, and I put the wire to the ignition from the key, and I also have battery power to the switch, or to the key switch, I should say. So the key should be working. We got to add a couple little more circuits here and there for stupid stuff like gauges and dash lights and stuff like that. Yeah, I got to put gauges in still. That's going to be fun. But I don't feel like doing that right now. I feel like having a little bit of fun. So I'm going to crawl under the truck, and I'm going to start putting exhaust on it. I'm probably going to need more parts, but I have an entire bin that's absolutely chock full of bends. And they're all 2.5 bends. Because I think I bought maybe, I don't know if I bought one giant kit or 2 kits, but I got a whole kit of 3-inch exhaust pipes over there for some reason. And I've got 2.5 over here. The reason I'm using 2.5 is because the headers dump into 2.25, and the mufflers and all the pipe that I have is essentially 2.5 because that's what we use on our race cars, because that's the maximum size they allow. So I had it hanging out, so I figured I'd use it. Also, this is an old piece off of my old Thompson car, back when we actually had fun exhaust. And tell me that this unused piece that I can't currently use, tell me that wouldn't look just so cool going down the road. And the best part of having slash cut pipes like that, it shortens the exhaust up a whole ton, because that slash moves it to about the midpoint of the cab, and the straight pipe that you'd have to run in order to put those in is really short. So hopefully I'll have enough, but if not, at least it'll be a short enough amount that I can just go to the auto parts store and overpay for some. However, I think I've had enough, at least for today. I got a couple more days, And I think tomorrow we're going to really dive into doing the exhaust, and maybe that other axle will be in. So this video won't be as boring as it has been. Trust me, for you, you only get to watch an hour of it. Me, I get to live 6-7 hours at a time every single day of this boring crap. And like I said before, for weeks on end, I've been going 14 hours a day between my day job and here. And it's just trying to get this thing done. But man, I just want to get this, every single part I put on it gets us closer. But I'm just really getting frustrated here. So we're going to just keep going, head down. But you know what? Let's take a break. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, guys, it's my final day I got to work on this thing. And we're not really going to be able to get anywhere until we finish up a bunch of mechanical stuff. However, good news. I got the axle in. I got some more studs. This one came with the bearing already on it. I paid the extra $15 or whatever, and I got a bearing put on. Good. That saves me a little bit of time. I also went to my AutoZone that's nearby, and I bought them out of 2.5-inch exhaust pipes, and there's about 4 of them in there, so that's cool. I also have exhaust hangers. Oh, there's some more stuff. What is this? Ah, yes, a throttle spring. We're going to need that at some point. I got a new dipstick for the transmission because apparently on the bracket that mounts it to the body, or not the body, but the transmission, it's cracked and it's leaking transmission fluid. So I'm like, well, I guess we're going to just put a new one in. Oh, it's got an O-ring, I think. Is that an O-ring? I hope so. We're going to need that. So why not just chuck it in? Hangers, more stuff. I don't really know what it is, but I got the heat going. We're going to get this exhaust hopefully mocked up. If we can get this exhaust at least mocked up. Oh, I should put the starter in while I got it out, huh? Yeah, we should probably do that before we do the exhaust. But if we can get this done, that would be absolutely tremendous. It's finally over. The saga finally ends here. The rear end is together, and it has oil in it, and the shocks on it, and the springs in it, and the drive shaft attached. The only thing it needs now is brake lines, but it's finally over. How long was that? A month? Maybe more? I don't know, but it doesn't matter anymore. I do have a new issue, though. I don't think the wheels fit. But not for the reason you were thinking. It's actually a little narrow. Because the way that this bed, which is custom made, which someday may go bye-bye, the way this is made is like, look how far over the frame it is. So if it was actually built with, like, I don't know, wheel wells, it would actually fit pretty well. However, it's like I need an 1.5-inch spacer to get the wheels that I have to fit, and they'd still have like another inch of clearance over here on the fender. So it's not like it's a huge deal. I could just throw some on and maybe play with some wheel options in the future, or just cut the damn bed off and put a real one on. I don't know. We'll figure that out in the future, though. But now we can finally move forward into the exhaust, and I'm excited. And I just looked down and forgot I had a whole fuel system sitting here. Perfect. But at least the hood's outside. I can get under there and work in the bed. Maybe. Anyway, we still have so much to put on this thing, but we're just, as soon as we see something in front of us, we just put our head down and run towards it and smash into it with our face. And then if it falls down, we move on to the next one. So I got to clean out underneath the truck. It is disgusting. I don't know what's under this truck, but man, it is so gross. I mean, every time I work on this thing, it is just chunks of crap falling down. It's like somebody had this truck and then drove it through a mud bog and then just kind of let it sit for 30 years. It's so nasty. Anytime I hit something with a hammer, more crap. Maybe I'll just take the blower to the frame rails while I can still reach them and see if I can clean that out. Look at that, huh? Both sides. I want to put an H-pipe in it at some point, but I'll probably wrap it where it's around the transmission pan just so it doesn't get hot. But it goes down. It takes a hard right, which if you're looking at it from the back, it takes a right, to slash cuts. Look at that. That makes me feel a lot better. Now, I'm sorry I didn't throw that to time lapse or show you how to do that, but basically, it's really nothing more than an eBay exhaust pipe kit. I think it was like 110 or 120 bucks. It comes with 4 sticks of straight pipe, a bunch of bends, and that's it. And you just got to be a little bit clever and throw it together. I mean, here, I'll even show you how I did it. Now you got the headers, and you got the down pipe from the header. Underneath that, I used a 45-degree pipe, and I cut it down a whole lot. Now, granted, this is not welded all the way. This is just very heavily tacked. To another 45 that I cut the sleeve down to shorten it up. To just kind of straight pipes, all the way down to this one here is a 45, into the muffler, into a straight pipe. Now, I don't think the kits come with 6 45-degree bends. They usually come with these, like 2 90s, 2 180s, 2 45s, and 4 sticks. You can get more kits that have more stuff, but you're going to pay more for them. I think I bought 2 of these kits. That's why I had so many of these bends hanging around. Now I have literally a bucket full of like 4 90s and 4 180-degree bends that I'll have absolutely no use for in the future. And just to show you this side's kind of the used side. I used some old crimp clamp, some old pipe from the race car, and some more just kind of pipes I bought at AutoZone, or whatever retailer had it, but my local one was AutoZone, and I literally bought them out of 2.5-inch pipe. And the ends, after you come out of the muffler, and you come all the way down, is just straight pipe. I took a T-bar, like a little piece of rod, and I welded them together way back in the day. But then, it just comes out at the side, right there. Now these tailpipes and mufflers were off of my old Thompson car, and I believe they're just like some Dynamax bullet muffler and some of that kit piping that I just kind of slash cut. You'll notice this one has a little end knocked out of it. Well, that was the very end of that piece, and it barely fit. So I'm like, well, I'm using it. To hell with it. That's going to be cool. And loud, too. I'll probably get pulled over a lot. I'm going to finish welding this up, which requires me essentially pulling it out, welding all the way around so there's no exhaust leaks, because those are loud. You can hear them, and it's going to be loud enough anyway, and I don't want any CO2 bypassing and getting up into the cabin, because God knows there's enough holes in this thing. There's going to get stuff in there. So we're we're going to get those patched up as much as humanly possible. And then when it's finally welded all the way around, I'm going to put the hangers on it, because I got a few rubber hangers. And we're going to just kind of affix those to the body and probably to the center, cross member thing. Yeah, that's probably a good spot. I'll probably put a couple at the cross member, one on each pipe. And then I'll put one tying both of them together at the running board, or at least a strap or something. Maybe I'll put one inboard of the running board, like a little bit more. Like, you see how the running board here kind of pokes out a little bit? I'll probably put it inboard, like where the frame is. It's probably going to be about, I don't know, 8-9 inches away from the end of the tailpipe, but that's totally fine. It'll just be there to hold it up. Plus, it'll be on rubber so that if the engine vibrates and flexes, it'll flex too, it won't break, so that'll be good. So I'm going to get to work on that. All right, she's ready to go back in. Just way too hot to touch at this moment. And I might have to make a little adjustment. I think one slipped because the rearward pipe is a little saggy, so I think we got to do something to get that back up in place. But we're pretty much done with the exhaust, except for putting it back in and putting it on hangers. But that's where we're going to have to end this week. And I know I'm saving all of you from the boring nature of wiring and all these other things that are really just, oh God, they're so tedious. But you know what? They're necessary. They're really necessary. We were going to have to do it at some point. And I'm not a mechanic. And I can do this. And if I can do this, you can do this. That's the whole point of this channel. It's to try to inspire people to doing this themselves. I know times are tough. I know things are always just getting expensive and more expensive all the time, no matter what. And we can still do this. You know, we can still make things happen. We can still follow through on dreams, even if it's 30 years later. And if you'd like to support those dreams, you can go over to GleasonBrosRacing.com. I don't care what you get. Get a sticker. They're all cool. They're all cheap. They're all good quality. Something cheap, just anything helps, you know. And koozies, they're cheap. We got hats. We got T-shirts. We got novel T-shirts. We have race team shirts. And I know the racing content's a lot more interesting, but we don't go racing until the end of April, almost May. And there's no difference in welding on this thing than on a race car. And I know, you get to watch me go racing and stuff, but let's be fair, that ain't going to last forever. And I'll just put that there. So if you'd like to help out even more by going to GleasonBrosRacing.com and buying all that stuff, you could also subscribe. And if you haven't done that already, please consider doing so. I'm just one guy, and I'm really trying to make this entertaining, and I'm trying to make this interesting. But you know what? This week kind of wasn't so much, except for the end here, where we actually got something really cool accomplished. And it's going to sound awesome, by the way. But give me a try, at least. Go back through the back catalog, and go check out the racing stuff. I put out a video. Go watch the first win video from last year. It is an absolutely epic video. And it never got the attention that it really deserved. So if you're interested in racing, go watch that, because it is a story and an epic tale just in itself. I mean, just go watch that one. And then go watch the other one we got. So anyway, so once you've done those two things, I just want to say thank you to those who have hung in there with me through thick and thin, through everything that we've done. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family, tell anybody. Please share. Do anything to help me out here. I don't care if it's free. Doesn't matter. Any help is all help to me. So next week, we're going to tackle this thing head on, just like we always do. Exhaust is going on. We're going to do the brakes when we get one more part in here. And we're going to just see whatever's in our way, we're going to knock it down. So guys, until next time, thank you guys so much. I greatly appreciate it. I'll see you then.